This is one of the things that we've put through the freeze dryer a couple of times for longer term storage. These are dehydrated, so they still have some water in it. You know, the water level is really low. They're also delicious. So we've put these through the freeze dryer without rehydrating them. And then we store them that way, because then you get rid of any extra water that is in there. They're even better for long-term storage. One of the things I've noticed is, well, I'm going to go ahead and open this. It's like milk cartons in grade school. I'm going to open the entire thing so I can see in there real well. So we've got the dehydrated potatoes, and they're kind of hard to crunch because they've got some structure. They actually get easier to crunch after they've gone through the freeze dryer. So I don't know what the water percentage is in here, but we'll find out. So I need to find out how much this weighs so I can get the equivalent of at least 10 pounds on the trays after the drying, or 10 pounds of wet weight. So I only need, I don't even know, a pound, 2 pounds on the trays to accomplish 10 pounds of rehydrated weight. So that's what I need to find out, is what does it weigh after it's rehydrated. So I'm going to rehydrate some of this and then weigh it. And I think this has, yeah, so this has a bit of salt in it, which is part of why it's yummy. Okay, so I'm going to rehydrate that by filling it up to that line, and then let it set for 12 minutes. Then we'll drain it and weigh it and find out what it weighs. So I need enough water that's over 120 degrees. What I'm looking for is how many of these do I need to put on the tray to get to 10 pounds of rehydrated. Fill it up to that line. Okay, so give that a 12-minute timer, and then we'll come back in about 12 minutes. 12 minutes later, we'll drain that and find out how much one of these boxes of this weighs. It says to drain it, but it looks like it's used pretty much all of it. Okay, so put this on there, tear it out. Okay. Oops. All right, so each box is equivalent of a pound. So I just need 10 boxes of that on the trays. Batch 16 of the series is finished. Everything's dry, it's defrosted, it's been done for a few hours now. So get the fan out of the door, and we'll get this closed and cooling. And this will not need as much cooling because the food has very, very little water in it to begin with. So I don't have to cool down a large mass, but I do need to get the cylinder, I need to get all the components all the way down to the full cold temperature before I start, so that the water will desublimate, condense out on the barrel. So I still need to get it cold, it just won't take as long. Let's see, also, there's the water from the last batch, the yogurt. So again, just about a gallon out of that yogurt, out of 10 pounds of yogurt. I'm going to close the drain valve. Okay, drain valve closed. So the seal is not complete. It's missing from here to here and from here to here. So I'm going to put my little palette knife in, just give it that little twist. And again, it doesn't take very much force, it just barely moves anything, but it gives a good seal. Now I've got that ring all the way around, I don't have to worry about air leaking in and out and it icing up anywhere. I'm going to shorten the freeze time because it won't need that much on these. So I'm going to go down to just 4 hours. I guess I'll leave it at 5. 4 hours might be enough. I'm not sure. Okay. Getting ready to start batch number 517, or batch 17 of this series. So in this batch, it's from the starch category. So I'm doing a potato one again, but I'm doing something a little different. I need to do something a little different because May has 31 days. If you've noticed, on all the rest of them, they've all started and ended on an even day. Well, with 31 days, I would end up starting one on the 30th, and then it would finish on the 1st, and then the rest of the series would all be on odd days. Well, I can't do that. So what I'm going to do is something that takes a short cycle or a small batch cycle. It'll be done by tomorrow morning, and that'll be on an odd day. I'll have a couple of batches with an odd day start and finish, but that'll keep me on track. I thought about saving these until the 30th, and then they would finish on the 31st, which then would pull us into the 2nd. But then I would have to freeze dry things out of order. I'd have to skip something now to hold these. These are dehydrated hash brown potatoes. You get these at Costco. Each little box, before it is dehydrated, is the equivalent of 1 pound of potatoes. So I need to put 10 boxes of these on the trays. And then it will pull out some moisture. They'll actually become more crisp and easier to munch if you want to try them when they're still dry. These are really tough to eat when they're dry like this, with just being dehydrated. They actually get more fragile and more edible as you freeze dry them. And they still rehydrate just the same and cook just the same. And they are fully cooked already, so heat just the same, I should say. Anyway, so we'll get those on the trays and get those going. On this set, because these have very little moisture in it to begin with, I'm not going to pre-freeze. They just don't need it. These are going to happen overnight anyway. So I'd like to do a batch and show at some point the difference between pre-freeze and not pre-freeze and how long it takes to get it down to temperature in the freeze dryer. It makes quite a difference. Before these were dehydrated, these were a pound a piece. So I need to get 10 of these packages on the 4 trays. So I just need 2.5 of these per tray. If I do more than that, that's fine, because then I can have extras, or we can do experiments with some of them. But as far as water load goes, this isn't going to be an issue. Okay, so going to get those on there. And then I will label these, when I do the bags, I'll label them with the amount of water it's supposed to have for each one of these. And my plan will be to bag them. It should be able to bag one of these in each of the Mylar bags. Anyway, we'll figure that out later. We'll keep track of the servings, because this claims 7 servings per container. We'll get those open and get them in there. If we can open them. There we go. And it looks like I can get at least 3 on there, so maybe we'll do 12 packs of this or more. That gives me 12. I could get quite a bit more on there, so maybe I will, because being pre-dried gives me a head start, a big head start. So if I do 4, I could get 16 in the batch. So that has 4 of them. I forgot to write down the number. 1231. That'd be the equivalent of 4 pounds on each tray doing it this way. But again, since they're already mostly dry, it's not a big deal. Tray 3. And tray 4. So they're all weighed. The freeze dryer is cooling, but because there's nothing cold in here, there's nothing frozen in these, I don't have to worry about waiting until it's ice cold in the freeze dryer. So they can go in now. So we'll move them over. All right, it's been about a half hour. It's down below freezing already, which really doesn't matter for this batch because this batch is starting with pretty much dry stuff already. I can put it in, I don't have to worry about it melting, so I don't worry about the fact that it's not freezing cold yet, or that it's just barely freezing for water. So I'll get those in there and we'll see what the temperature drops. I think I will put a thermometer in there because inquiring minds still like to know. There's not much water to freeze in there. There's no liquid. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and get them in there. Yeah, the thermometer on the bottom already says that it's about 23 degrees or something. Yeah, so the barrel is cooling quite nicely. Yeah, it's just above 20 degrees. Okay, tray 4. All right, that's in there. The seal has a ring all the way around it, so it's sealed. The food is 70 degrees right now, and usually we're putting it in at 5 degrees, but there's also very little mass of food there. It should freeze very quickly, and then when it starts freeze drying, it's going to sense that there's not enough moisture to drive the pressure up under temperature. So it's going to go very quickly. It'll probably skip to the short cycle, or I think small batch setting, and could be done before I even get up in the morning. It's 9:15 at night. Come on back later, we'll check them. Unlike most of the things that have a lot of water in them, where I add extra time, this time I'm going to bypass the last 3 hours and check it and put it in for a couple more hours. It just doesn't need that much time because there's so little moisture. After this batch is done, and when I start the next batch, I won't even bother defrosting it between that. I'll just restart it immediately to keep it cold, between the batches, because there's just so little water in there. But it is pulling water out of the hash brown potatoes. So let's get them open, check them out. Back to this, away from the chickens. So I'll go ahead and down arrow past the last 3 hours. And it's only been going for 18¼ hours so far. I'll get the drain valve open and get them out and weighed. So tray 1. And it's about 120, 130, 120, 110, 115. So they're all nice. Wow, that's really toasty. Okay, 1221. And since we know the thermometer weighs about 10, that means it's gone down about 20 grams because it was 1231. Now it's 1221. With the thermometer in. So I'm going to put this one on the top. I'm going to switch the positions. I'm going to put that one on the bottom. I'll put tray 4, and it's 1222, so it's gone down 9 or 19. So I'll put that on the top. Put this one on the bottom. Tray 2, that's 1217. Okay, again that's 10 lower, so with the thermometer that gives it about 20 lower. Oops, again I want to switch. I keep forgetting what I'm doing. Tray 3, 1216. Okay, that's bouncing 15, 16. I'm going to leave it at 16. And then we'll put that back up. We'll put that at the next to the top shelf. And then number 2. So we've got 1 through 4, top to bottom this way now. These are very dry already, but I'm still going to put them in for a couple hours and get another weight check just to be positive. And we'll see how much, if anything, that it loses. If it doesn't lose anything, we know that it was already dry. And that's probably a fact because there's just not that much moisture involved to begin with. Okay, we'll get that restarted and come back and check it. All right, more dry. Oh, close the drain valve. Okay, continue. And it's fine. And 2 hours should be plenty. So we'll come back and check it. It's in the last few minutes, so gonna get them out. Double check the weight, it's probably fine. Get rid of the rest of that. Turn off the cooling fan over here. Open the drain valve. Hey, tray 1. It went down another gram. I didn't expect that. That one went down 1 more gram. So I'm going to check the others, see if they're similar or if there's any issues with them. Tray 2. Okay, no change. Tray 3. That went down a couple grams. Check tray 4. Okay, tray 4. That's down 2 grams. So 2, 3, 4, so total about 5 grams in the 2 hours. I'm going to give it another hour. I've got time to do that. It's not going to need defrosted. So I'm going to put that shield in place for a minute. So I'm going to give that a little bit more time. Going to go ahead and give it another hour because we can. Not in a big rush. It's still going to finish today. It's only about 4:30 in the afternoon. It isn't going to need any defrost. So, and I may be putting the next batch in wet or room temperature. So I'm going to stir these a little bit to make sure that everything's had an equal chance to dry. Because actually I'm kind of surprised with that it changed it all that time. I mean, I did cancel out some time, but still it had gone down a considerable amount. Okay, so yeah, I'm just going to kind of toss them, mix them gently so that they all have a chance to get in the best areas for drying. Yeah, they're definitely more fragile now than they are before they're freeze dried. Dehydrating them leaves enough moisture in to make them fairly strong. It'll be interesting to see the percentage of weight that came out by freeze drying in comparison to the dehydration. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put those back in. I'm going to go with tray 4 on the top again and work my way down. So I'm going to give them a bit more time. I absolutely don't know if it was dry enough. It only lost a total of about 4 or 5 grams. But I always try to make sure I get everything out that I can. And I'm not in a giant rush. It's 4:30 in the afternoon. As long as I get that next one in today, I'm still good to get it done 2 days from now. So that's fine. So I'm going to give it another hour and a half or 2 hours and check it one more time before I bag it. So we'll get it restarted. So I'm going to give it more dry time. I did close the valve. Continue. And it's plenty cool. And restart. And come back and check it in a while. All right, so those are out. We'll get the thermometers out and get the final weights and then decide on how to bag them. So the hash browns only used 11.95 kilowatt hours, of course, because it was so short of a cycle. I'll go ahead and reset that, get it ready for the next one. Now for the weights after dried and the thermometers out. So tray 1, 1209, tray 2, tray 3, and tray 4, 1210. All right, we'll get those ready for bagging. I'll do the math and find out how much was in each one of the little cartons. I've got some bags labeled with the batch number, what it is, hash brown potatoes that were dried, and so dried hash brown potatoes, and the date that they went into the freeze dryer. So now we'll do the math. We'll come right back on that. So the hash brown potatoes are completely dried now, and it does change the texture a little bit. They're actually easier to munch on if you want to try them as a dry snack. To begin with, I had 16 boxes that said that they were 7 servings apiece. To me, they're kind of skimpy servings, so we may box them a little bit different. But we have the serving size and calorie size that they started with, so we know where we're at now. We're going to find out how many will fit in one of the quart bags, because I still like to put them in a quart bag. I might divide it into 10 bags, so we'd have 1.6 boxes of the original in each bag. We'll find out what will fit. Anyway, we'll probably do between 8 and 16 bags. We'll find out in a minute. It lost a total of, all the trays combined lost a total of 87 grams. That equates to about 5.4 grams per box. That's a fairly decent amount of water. Now it's gone. So anyway, we'll bag these and store these away. So I've got some of the bags labeled. I just don't have an amount on there yet. We'll see what will fit. If I do 1/10 of it, which again would be 1.6 bags, 1.6 of the cartons that I started with, then I would need 183.4 grams in a bag. I have no idea if that will fit, because I wouldn't think so. But we'll check it, find out what will fit. And these, you certainly don't have to worry about crushing them. Oh. All I need is 183, no problem. So I'm going to bag it as 10 bags, and then I can calculate out the servings. All right, there we go. So that fits, that will close. And so it gives the equivalent of 1.6 of the original containers. So what would that be? So 7 times 1.6. So that'd be about 11 servings. According to the size that they had, that would be 11 servings now. And maybe I'll mark them that way so that it works out that the way they had it. It's amazing how much easier these are to crunch than they were before. Try it. I think you'll be surprised. There's such a huge difference between dehydrated and freeze-dried, because they were dehydrated, now they've been dehydrated and freeze-dried. I'll get the rest of the bags labeled and I'll be back. Don't go away. I'm back. So if I haven't messed it up, here's what I've got. Just over 11 servings per bag, and that it needs 533 grams of water to be put back into it. I said just over 11 because it should be 11.2 or something, because there was 120 servings, or 112. The calculation would have been 112, and this only works out to 110 by doing the bags this way. But that's close enough. It'll work out and nobody will even notice the difference. So that way I can put 10 bags, lots of servings, and those servings aren't particularly big, because each one of the boxes makes 1 pound, and so it'd be, they call it 7 servings, so 1/7 of a pound. And unless you're having other stuff with it, that's a pretty small serving. Okay, so 183 grams per bag, well, slightly more. And really, you should try this. The difference between these and the just dehydrated is significant. These are more like crunchy potato chips. When they're just dehydrated, they're almost impossible to eat. They're so hard. These actually become more fragile. Okay, 183 or just over. Wow. Parts of a gram go fast. And I'll shake them down a bit, and voila. The scoop I'm using is a French fry scoop or popcorn scoop or something like that I found on Amazon. It was slightly too wide for the medium tray, so I cut the two sides off a little bit and then 3D printed new sides and glued them on. Then somebody was asking me about if they could just take the original pieces that were cut off and flatten them, and so I tested that and it worked fine. I heated them up over the toaster, or you could use a hot air gun or the oven. Just heat them up a little bit and then I flattened them out, and then I was able to sand one and then it could be glued into place. The hash browns were all bagged. I put it in 10 bags. Each one of them has kind of 11 servings. Now I'll get them sealed up with oxygen absorbers in it. So I've got 300 cc oxygen absorbers. I'll put one each one and then heat seal them shut. I'll tuck one of these. These have enough space probably, so I probably don't even need to worry about tucking them in there. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna kind of try to tuck them alongside the edge there. Kind of slide it down between the side of the bag and the potatoes. All right, now I'll zipper them all shut and then seal them. And if you have one of the vacuum chamber sealers, this would be a good product for that. But I don't. So I'm trying to just squish out as much extra air as I can from the top area. There's not a lot of extra space in these, but of course all the space between the potatoes are still filled with air. The oxygen absorber will pretty much take care of that. If I could only do one thing, either vacuum them or oxygen absorber, I would choose the oxygen absorber. But doing both would not be a bad thing, I think. Except for the items that you don't want crushed. All right, we'll get those heat sealed now. I'll bring the sealer over instead of moving the camera. Okay, so just kind of smoothing move this out of the way for a second. Just kind of smoothing the top of the edge of the bag across the sealer area. Make sure that it's nice and smooth. And give it a couple of seconds, and then I'm going to seal it a second time. I like to do twice for the first bag, just to make sure it's really sealed. All right, so it's got a good seal across the top. Still got room for additional seals if that one fails, or if I want to cut it open and use part of it. As with most of the other things in this series, I bag these in 7mm 1-quart Mylar bags. It's the bag that we use the most. Our number one bag is a quart bag, followed probably by the pint bag, and then third place is the 2-quart bag. The 1-quart bag for most of the things we make will hold 1 to 4 servings depending on what it is. And that's plenty for us. I'd rather open a couple of small bags than have a big bag that I can't use all of. So with all those sealed, the one other thing I like to do is add a gross weight to each bag so I can tell if there's ever an issue with the seal or the bag letting in moisture. So weigh each bag and put the weight on the bottom corner. Certainly not necessary. Okay, as soon as all of these are labeled, we'll get ready to go put them in the bins. By starting with the dehydrated potatoes, I was able to get 16 pounds of potatoes in one batch with extremely small amount of water. We could do multiple batches in a row without defrosting the machine. We could probably do at least 5-6 batches in a row without even turning the machine off, just using final dry over and over again. Forget the main dry, it really doesn't need it. And we've done that with these potatoes before, and it gets a lot of potatoes real quick. 16 pounds in one batch, it's ready to put in the bins. So they're going in bin 3 with the last set, and we'll see how much more room is there. I'll put them on my location sheet, which will later get put into the computer so we can find it. We can sort by food item, the date that it was packed, or the location. So if we want to know what's in bin 4F, we can look that up. If we want to know what's in bin 3, this particular bin, we can sort just for everything that's in bin 3. Or we can look for everywhere we have potatoes, which is in multiple bins, depending on when we freeze dried them. So let's go get them in the bin and move on to the next batch. And the freeze dryer, unfortunately, you can probably still hear it. The freeze dryer is still running and cold, so it's ready to load as soon as we can. Okay, let's get those done. The great thing about this project is I'm getting 10 bins, we should have about 10 bins of food stored when we're done, about 500 pounds, and it'll be in a more methodical way instead of just hit and miss like I'd been doing for almost 5 years. We just did whatever we thought on a whim. We did a lot of it, 500 batches worth, but this is the first time in all that time where we're really concentrating on getting a certain set of foods done. The one downside is I'm going to have to get another rack because I don't have a rack for these sitting over there. We have 40 bins on the racks that we have, and I don't have space for 10 more. So we'll have to get another set of racks, I guess. Anyway, we'll get these in the bin and move on to the next batch. Okay, let's get those in bin 3. Yeah. So, bin 3, got our little yogurt pieces from last time. Now we'll add the potatoes. A lot of potatoes. Okay, so the lid comes down a little bit, so I think we still have room for one more batch, depending on how thick the bags are. So we'll see what will fit next. They're the little boxes of hash brown potatoes. Get these from Costco. Each little box, before it was dehydrated, is a pound worth of apple. Because this batch is starting with